Hello and welcome into a special NCC News NFL Draft Preview segment along with Josh Golden. I'm John Eads. So glad to be with you. Exciting times, Josh. NFL Draft coming up in 1 week. Teams looking to bolster their roster. And as a resident Bills expert, I got to ask you, do the Bills pick at 25?
I'm not sure about that one, John. It's going to be a bit of a question. So we know what the Bills have done in the past so far in the last 5 years where they've had Sean McDermott as the head coach. They've only picked with their original first-round pick twice. In 2017, they traded down from 10 to 27 with Kansas City. They ended up taking Patrick Mahomes with that pick, obviously, but the Bills ended up with Tre'Davious White. 2018, they move up to get Josh Allen. 2020, they trade the pick overall, don't even have a first-round pick to go get Stephon Diggs. So they're not too frequently picking with their own pick, and we heard Brandon Beane say a few days ago that he doesn't have 25 first-round grades for this draft class. Reports are that there's probably around 16 to 19 guys who have first-round grades, so don't be surprised if you see Beane trying to make a move up the board.
So historically speaking, the Bills have both traded up and stayed where they are coming into the draft. Now, if they were to trade up or stay at 25, which position group should they be targeting?
Well, that has to be the cornerback position, John. I mean, with Levi Wallace departing to Pittsburgh in free agency, there's a bit of a hole there, and we mentioned Pittsburgh. Former University of Pittsburgh cornerback Dane Jackson, 7th-round pick in 2020, is the guy who is currently slotted to start opposite Tre'Davious White. Was great last year filling in for Tre'Davious when he missed some time with that torn ACL, but I think they got to look at the cornerback position, the top of that position. You know, Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati, Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU, but there's a couple of other great names as well. Andrew Booth from Clemson, Kyer Elam from Florida, Trent McDuffie out of Washington as well. There's a lot of cornerback talent in this draft. It's a very deep cornerback class as well, so the Bills could find some value if they stick at 25, but those elite guys are certainly not going to wait until then.
But if they want to get some of those elite corners and they'd have to move up, how far do you think the Bills would have to move up in the draft order to get those elite corners?
Yeah, so obviously it depends on the guy. With Sauce Gardner, who I think most people tend to agree is the best cornerback in this draft class, they're probably going to have to look somewhere around that 5 to 7 range, I would think, where it's going to be the New York Giants, the Carolina Panthers, and the New York Giants again. If you've been paying attention to the Bills, you know they have a great relationship with those two teams. Of course, the Giants' new general manager, Joe Shane, is the former assistant GM of the Buffalo Bills. And then Carolina is where both Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane came from. So they have good relationships with both of those organizations. Those would be potential trade partners if they want to go up and get Sauce Gardner. For Stingley, it would probably be somewhere just outside the top 10, maybe that 11 to 13 range. You can look at the Washington Commanders. They know Ron Rivera well, so that could be a move they can make. They've made trades with the Vikings at 12. We mentioned Stephon Diggs in the past, and the Texans as well at 13 could be looking to move down and pick up some future assets.
So you think cornerback is the favorite if people were going to bet as to which position group they would pick up in
Definitely
the first round?
the favorite, yes.
What's the dark horse then?
Couple of dark horses. I would say not as much a position group, but a name that's a dark horse would be Breece Hall, the running back out of Iowa State. Had a great career over there, and the Bills have been kind of lacking at that position for the last couple of years, really lacking with the run game as a whole outside of Josh Allen, who they don't want to rely on in the run game because obviously you're trying to keep Josh Allen healthy. So Breece Hall would be a great option there. Obviously, they could look to bolster the offensive line as well, but don't overlook the receiver position. If one of these guys fall, like a Chris Olave out of Ohio State or Jameson Williams out of Alabama falls due to his injury concerns, that would definitely be someone who the Bills would look to draft at 25.
Now, in your research process and your film study, what are some other names, who are some other names that you've gathered that have really caught your eye?
Well, the one guy who caught my eye, I wouldn't say this was so much from watching film, but just from watching him play throughout his college career, was Desmond Ridder. I mean, that Cincinnati program wasn't too successful before he got there, and he brought them to the college football playoff. Just a historic run that he had with them, and I think he's just a winner. He can absolutely sling it, and I think he, when all is said and done, will probably go down as the best quarterback in this draft class. And on the defensive side of the ball, you got to look at the national champion, Jordan Davis. I mean, 6'6", 340-pound defensive tackle, just an absolute freak athlete, can run with you. If he gets a hold of you, you are not getting out of there. He's a big dude, so that's a guy who I think can have a huge, huge impact at the NFL level.
Which team has the most at stake in this draft class, the team that needs to have a make-or-break selection?
Well, Bills fans are going to have an interest in this one, John, because it's the team who's beaten them in the playoffs for the last 2 years, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. We mentioned that they traded Tyreek Hill away a couple of weeks ago to Miami, so now they have 2 first-round picks back-to-back at 29 and 30. And they need to hit on those picks. They also have 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and 2 fourth-round picks, and they need to fill that Tyreek Hill void as well as a couple other positions on their roster, maybe find some cheaper replacements to help kind of offset that $50 million contract for Patrick Mahomes.
How do you fill the massive hole that is Tyreek Hill if you're the Chiefs? I don't know.
Can't do it with just one guy.
They're going to try to do it next week, though. NFL Draft coming up next Thursday. That's all for Josh Golden and myself. This has been the NCC News NFL Draft Preview Show. We'll have continued coverage through next week.